A real estate developer is the wealthiest person you'll meet who's perpetually broke. Signing up for the job means being okay with always feeling overextended, out of time, in debt to someone or something. Uncertainty is the default state. You're corralling a team of people, investors, lenders, lawyers, brokers, contractors, whose incentives are not always aligned. And your work lies out there for everyone to see, everyone to judge. Succeed, and the rewards are outsized. You earn a place in society, on the circuit of doggy galas and art exhibitions, or whatever version of that is culturally relevant to you. On that circuit, you encounter people with money, people whose net worths make yours look like a rounding error. It's a world in which your wife is getting $800 facials every week, in which your third grader's tuition is $40K, in which your peers are routinely donating $500,000 to get their names inscribed on the museum or the yeshiva. Now, maintaining that lifestyle can be hard enough when things are good. When things are bad though, the pressure can be so intense that you may choose to insulate your family from it. You insulate them so completely that when the music stops, they may keep dancing. Brandon Miller was 43 when he took his life. Artem Tepler was 41 when he took his life. Nir Meir was in his late 40s when he allegedly spun a web of fraud that took in investors, lenders, and the government, a scheme for which he's now on Rikers awaiting trial. In all three cases, though very different in specifics, there is that suffocating sense of isolation, that no one else could understand their situation, and that only they could get themselves out of it. When that turned out not to be the case, things got dark. Let's take a closer look. When lifestyle creep becomes deadly. Brandon Miller was the platonic ideal of a New York developer, quarterback handsome, Ivy League educated, and dad in the business. He joined the New York-focused development firm and lived the life. Tribeca penthouse, Southampton home, trophy wife, 2 daughters. The social set was intimidating. Miller's sister-in-law married into the Crespi financier family. That patriarch is a Stevie Cohen buddy. And the bills flowed as strongly as the vibes. Miller specialized in sewing up ground leases and getting projects shovel-ready before flipping them to other developers. When his dad died in 2016, he inherited an over-levered firm that was beset with lawsuits. He kept things moving as best he could, but the pandemic compounded his problems. In 2021, finding himself in a pinch, Miller sold a Tribeca pad for $9 million and then moved the family into an Upper East Side rental for $47,000 a month. He stopped paying maintenance and docking fees on the Van Dutch boat and took out multiple loans on his Hamptons home. Still, the show went on. In January, his wife discussed her routine of weekly $800 facials with the New York Times. Miller kept borrowing money from increasingly pressure cooker sources. Last year, his friends arranged an intervention. Right before it though, one learned that a Miller project he had invested $1 million in and helped raise more funds for was controlled by someone else altogether. Confronted about the deal, Miller broke down. He couldn't stop though. He borrowed $1.5 million against a Highline ground lease deal, but simultaneously fell behind on his annual lease payments. This summer, he told his wife that he'd have to stay behind while they went on a European summer vacation. He was trying to close a deal, he said, that would solve all their financial problems. When his family was on the Amalfi Coast, Miller rigged his Porsche Carrera to poison himself. He died July 3rd. The Times reported that Miller's wife had visited his office only once, and she met his business partner just 3 times, including, most recently, at her husband's grave. It's a saga that has rocked that genteel cohort. One source told me that all the stay-at-home mom wives in his group decided to learn about our businesses since the news of Miller's death broke. Had he come clean, there were people still there for him, the source added. Shame is magnified by an audience. Artem Tepler was cut from very different cloth. An immigrant from Siberia who bought distressed properties in Jersey and Florida before moving out west, Tepler became prominent on LA's sub-institutional development scene. He was not a fancy guy. You'd mostly find him sporting a hoodie, BJJ'd cauliflower ears poking out, while preaching the gospel of tough love entrepreneurship gurus like Alex Hormozy and Patrick Bet-David. Rather than glossy Hamptons magazine spreads, Tepler's status came from his large online audience, where he shared his from-the-trenches developer insights with tens of thousands of hopefuls. Meanwhile, he was facing the specter of total financial ruin. He had signed millions of dollars in personal guarantees on land deals on which he was vastly overleveraged. Look, it's hard enough to admit failure to your close people. I've certainly experienced that. But to do so to a flock of people who look up to you might be even harder. In November, Tepler hung himself, leaving behind a fiancée and a 3-year-old daughter. Crime and punishment. Nir Meir was an unlikely candidate to be the king of Manhattan. As I wrote after his February arrest in South Beach, think of Adam Sandler's Howie in Uncut Gems, crank up the sketch, and you get close to the feeling. Such a blatant outsider found acceptance through brute force spending. Look, money is not a perfect substitute for social currency, but it works for a time. Meir would get the best table in the best restaurant, hosted private omakase dinners at his, or not his, $43 million beachfront Hamptons home, and in a single month spent $200,000 on wine. When exiled from his development firm HFZ, Meir moved to Miami, as one does, and kept the charade going. 11 ZZs, a $150K a month Miami Beach rental. The end, when it came, was brutal. Authorities picked him up at the One Hotel South Beach, and his estranged wife was instructed to come pick up the kids. The DA's office is asking for 7 years of prison time for Meir at a minimum. A week prior to the arrest, Meir had declared bankruptcy, saying he had $30 million in liabilities and just $50 in cash. This is a guy who was once overseeing a $10 billion pipeline of projects in New York's toniest neighborhoods. We tend to hear about this stuff when things go to the very extreme, when people end their lives or commit operatic crimes. The allegations against Meir, for example, include faking wire transfer docs and hiring people to fake Korean accents. But far less headline-grabbing cases of this stuff are playing out all the time. People in the business are often fighting demons, some market-dependent, some of their own making. There's always someone richer and more successful than you, someone with a better-looking existence. Knowing when you're in real trouble, the kind of trouble your razzle-dazzle and hustle can't get you out of, is complicated. Asking for help is always an option, but you may not be able to see it. I hope you found this video valuable. If you're having thoughts of suicide, call or text 988 or go to speakingofsuicide.com/resources for more help. Thank you so much, and until next time.